Commission resumes. Please remind the witness he's still under oath.
Witness still under oath.
Mr. Nzuza, on the 30th of July this year, your counsel cross-examined Mr. Boertes of Lonmin. On the 30th of July this year, your counsel cross-examined Mr. Boertes of Lonmin.
Le 30 ke zikaJuly kulo nyaka igqwetha lakho belibuza imibuzo phaka kumse Boertes waseLonmin andithi?
And I want...
Yes.
And he said the following about the deaths of Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi, the security officers.
Wathetha ezinto zilandelayo ngokufaka Mr. Mabelane no Mr. Fundi security officers eziya.
Chair, I'm not going to go to the script, but may I just give the reference? It's day 266, page 33677, line 14. All right, we're there, right, okay. Double 3677, line 14, and you'll see that at paragraph at line 12, Mr. Mpofu has been dealing with various criticisms of the conduct of Lonmin. In the context of the deaths of Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi. And then he says, all right, so those are the reasons in respect of which I will say that those deaths should be laid at the door of Lonmin. And in summary, I think it's fair to say the reasons he gave were that Lonmin didn't take adequate steps to protect them.
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you this. Is that also your view? Do you also criticize Lonmin and its officials for not protecting Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi?
Yes, it is.
You criticize Lonmin for not protecting Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi from being killed by strikers.
And don't understand the question.
You criticize Lonmin for not protecting Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi from being killed by strikers.
That part, I do not know that part, that they were killed by the strikers.
Well, your counsel has accepted that they were killed by strikers.
He's the one who accepted that.
And there's been direct evidence that they were killed by strikers.
And yes, but that has nothing to do with me.
It has a lot to do with you. I'll show you why.
No.
But you accept that there's been evidence given that it was strikers who killed Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi.
Yes, but I'm saying I have no knowledge of that.
I understand that.
I cannot respond to that.
And you blame Lonmin for those murders?
Yes.
That you do know about?
Yeah. Yes.
You don't know about the conduct of the strikers of whom you were a leader, but you do know about the conduct of Lonmin.
And the wolf? Repeat the question.
Never mind.
So yeah.
Now, did I understand your evidence correctly, your evidence in chief, that the deaths of the 10 people before the 16th of August were caused by Lonmin's refusal to talk to the strikers.
Ndiveka kakuhle ubungqina bakho ke okuba ukubulawa kwabantu balishumi before i-16 kwadalwa loo nto leyo nguLonmin engathethi nabaqhankqalazi engafuni uthetha nabaqhankqalazi. Yes.
You say, if Lonmin had talked to the strikers,
Ubangabe uLonmin ebethethile uthi ubangabe uLonmin ebethethile nabaqhankqalazi
none of those 10 deaths would have occurred.
aba bantu balishumi bengafanga.
Ngangakho umuntu osoleke.
Yes, no one would have died.
Well, let's talk about Mr. Langa.
Masithethe ke ngoTatulanga.
Mr. Langa was killed when he was on the way to work.
Tatulanga wabulawa ke esendleleni esemsebenzini.
Can you explain to the Commission how his death was caused by Lonmin's refusal to talk to the strikers?
Kasichazele ke kuba ubulawa kaTatulanga ingena njani Lonmin apho kuba xekwe yona xa uTatulanga ebulawa esemsebenzini.
Khange ngithethe ngolanga.
I never spoke about Langa.
You spoke about the 10 deaths.
Uthethe ngaba bantu balishumi babulawayo.
One of those was Mr. Langa.
And omnye wabo bantu yayinguMr. Langa.
Khange ngibale magama.
I did not mention names.
You spoke about the 10 deaths.
Kodwa uthethe ngabantu abalishumi babulawayo. Yes.
You said those 10 deaths would not have happened if Lonmin had spoken to the strikers.
Wathi abo bantu balishumi ngebengafanga bangabuLonmin ebethethile nabaqhankqalazi.
Njalo.
That is so.
So I'm asking you, how would Lonmin speaking to the strikers have avoided the death of Mr. Langa, who was one of those 10?
Ndabuza kuba ukuthetha kweLonmin nabaqhankqalazi bezawunceda ngantoni ukukhusela uba lo mntu uTatulanga angabulawa.
Leyo nginawuyiphendula.
I cannot answer that.
How would the Lonmin talking to the strikers have prevented the deaths of Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi?
Ukuthetha ke kwaLonmin athethe nabaqhankqalazi bezawunceda ntoni ekunqandeni ba uMr. Fundi noMr. Mabelane bangabulawa.
Ndif?
Repeat the question.
How would Lonmin talking to the strikers have prevented the deaths of Mr. Mabelane and Mr. Fundi?
Ukuthetha kwaLonmin nabaqhankqalazi bekuzawunqanda njani ba uMr. Mabelane noMr. Fundi bangabulawa.
Babantu abasenze beza emsebenzini.
Anif?
Kaloku leyo into ndithanda ndizokuyiphendula ngoba ndiyazi xa ithi izi-strikers ezibulela aba bantu andizukuyiphendula.
But I said I'm not going to answer that because I do not know that it is the strikers that killed those people.
Mr. Nzuza, I'm talking about your evidence.
Ndithetha mna ngobakho ubungqina.
You say that none of those 10 deaths would have occurred if Lonmin had spoken to the strikers. That's your evidence.
Nguwe emngqineni bakho othi abo bantu balishumi ngebengafanga bangabe uLonmin ebethethile nabaqhankqalazi.
Ewe njalo lo uLonmin
Yes.
uba besebenzise indlela ukuthi makathethe uDacosta istrike esiqhubekile kuDacosta kuthethwa naye abasebenzi angabaqhubekeke bahlale phansi. Uba bebesebenzise la ndlela uLonmin yabisetshenziswa nguDacosta ngengazange kwenzeke nix.
Lonmin would have used the strategy that DaCosta used. He spoke to the strikers. The strike continued after DaCosta spoke to them.
And how would that have prevented the deaths of those 10 people?
Uthi ke kaloku ibizawunqanda njani ba uLonmin xa ethetha nabaqhankqalazi bizawunqanda njani ba aba bantu bangabulawa.
Kuba makathethe nabasebenzi ba uzabanika njani emningini imali.
It would have prevented it in the sense that he would have spoken to the workers, discuss how they were going to get their money.
So those 10 people were killed because Lonmin was refusing to talk to the strikers. Is that right?
So ke uthi aba bantu bayi-10 babulawa ngoba uLonmin ebengafuni uthetha nabaqhankqalazi.
Andova umbuzo?
I did not get the question.
Is it correct that those 10 people were killed because Lonmin refused to talk to the strikers?
Kunjalo into ba aba bantu balishumi babulawa ngoba uLonmin engafuni ukuthetha nabaqhankqalazi.
Winjalo.
Yes, it is so.
Well, who killed them?
Babulawa ngubani?
Andibazi.
I do not know.
What is the connection between the refusal of Lonmin to talk to the strikers and the killing of those 10 people?
Intoni connection, intoni edibanisa ukwala kweLonmin ukuthetha nabaqhankqalazi nokubulawa kwaba bantu? Sidibana phi ezo nto zihambelana njani?
Andova umbuzo?
Didn't get the question.
What is the connection between Lonmin's refusal to speak to the strikers and the killing of those people?
Uzidibanisa njani into kaLonmin engafuni ukuthetha nabaqhankqalazi nokubulawa kwaba bantu? Zihambelana phi njani?
Kwalo ngabasebenzi beLongmin aba abasolekileyo.
But
Bebeqashwe yiyo.
those people who died are workers of Lonmin. They were working for Lonmin.
And who killed them?
Babulewe ngubani?
Andibazi.
I do not know.
But they were killed because Lonmin wasn't talking to the strikers.
Kodwa ke babulewe ngenxa yokuba uLonmin engathethi nabaqhankqalazi.
Leyo ndithi andiyazi uba babulewe ngubani. Qha phelela.
That's why I'm saying I do not know who killed them.
But you're saying your evidence is that they lost their lives because Lonmin refused to talk to the strikers.
Kodwa ke uthi babulawa ngenxa yokuba uLonmin engafuni ukuthetha nabaqhankqalazi nokho ungazi uba babulewe ngubani.
Le nditsho.
That's what I'm saying.
In what manner did the refusal to talk to the strikers cause those deaths?
Into kaLonmin ongafuni ukuthetha nabaqhankqalazi yenze njani bakubulawa abantu? Ingenaphi lonto le? Ukubulawa kwabantu.
Ndithi ngabasebenzi beLongmin aba.
I'm saying they are Lonmin employees.
What is that? In what manner? Listen to my question carefully, please.
Mamela.
In what manner did the refusal to talk to the strikers cause the deaths of those people?
Mamela kahle. Ekungafunini ukuthetha kweLonmin nabaqhankqalazi. Kwenze njani ba aba bantu ngokubabulawa?
Andiyazi ke la.
I do not know
Ababulewe njani.
how they were killed.
I think you do know, Mr. Nzuza. That's the problem.
Ndicinga uba uyayazi ingxaki leyo uyayazi.
Xa uthi ndiyayazi ngoyicacisa uba ndiyazi njani.
Then you can explain how I know.
You
if
know
say
that some of the strikers were trying to enforce the strike, and that's how some of those people lost their lives.
uyayazi into yokuba abanye babaqhankqalazi bebenyanzelisa istrike esi basiqhubeke okanye abantu baqhubeke baqhankqalazi. Yiyo le nto abantu babulawa.
Andiyazi ke leyo.
I do not know about
And
that.
if Lonmin had spoken to the strikers, then the strike might have been called off. Then they wouldn't have lost their lives because no one would have enforced the strike.
And bangabe uLonmin ebethethile nabaqhankqalazi. Mhlawumbe istrike esi besingapheliswa bengekho mntu ke ozawubulawa ngoba istrike bezabe siphelisiwe uLonmin ethethile nawo.
Lo wabethethile nathi bese besipheli akungazostrike.
Yes, if Lonmin had spoken to the protesters, the strike would have ended.
And then no one would have tried to enforce the strike.
And bengazuba nomuntu ke ngokunyanzelisa istrike ngoba
Correct.
Lonmin uthethile nabantu and istrike siyapheliswa.
Utsho njalo na.
Yes, and you also saying
And-
that, yes.
Yeah, and then no one would have been killed
Komntu ke bezawubulawa.
Ebulawa ngubani.
By whom?
by the people who were enforcing the strike.
Ngabantu abanyanzelisa istrike.
Andibazi ke abantu bebenyanzelisa istrike ngandophendula lo mbuzo.
I cannot answer that because I do not know the people who are enforcing the strike.
All right, let me move on.
Masiqhubeke.
Your counsel also said that Mr. Ramaphosa is to be blamed for the killings that were carried out by the strikers.
Igqwetha lakho ke lityholeke no Mr. Ramaphosa ngokubulawa kwabantu pha bebulawa
Do you
ngabaqhankqalazi.
agree with that?
Uvumelana nalo? Xa lityhola Mr. Ramaphosa ngokubulawa kwabantu pha ngabaqhankqalazi.
Ngibanthethe ngicela into eyi-1 la
Yes,
commission la mama lo andiyazi into ayihleka la commission.
But before I speak,
Xa
just
ndithetha uyahleka. So
want to bring it to the Commission's attention that that lady is laughing every time I speak. She's laughing. I don't know what she's laughing at.
lona ejeze yena.
The lady with the yellow jersey.
I'm sure she'll restrain herself.
I didn't notice anybody laughing, but if the lady concerned is laughing, she must please desist from doing so.
Oh, sihlalo ukuthi akambonanga yena kodwa sathemba uzayeka lonto.
So, do you agree that Mr. Ramaphosa is to be blamed for the killings which took place before the 16th of August?
Yavuma ke kuba fanele sithole uRamaphosa for ukubulawa kwabantu phambi kwe-16 zika-August.
Phambi 16.
Phambi kwazo.
Nguye obesenza lona.
Yes, he's the one who did that.
So, you say that it's Lonmin's fault and it's Mr. Ramaphosa's fault that Mr. Mabebe, Mr. Mabelane, Mr. Fundi, Mr. Langa lost their lives.
Uthi ke lityala lika Lonmin nomse Ramaphosa kuba bonke abo bantu ababalileyo babulawa.
Lityala Lonmin uRamaphosa.
Yes, it's their fault, Lonmin and Mr.
And as
Ramaphosa.
far as you're aware, as far as you're concerned, none of the strikers can be blamed for those deaths.
Ukwazi kwakho ke wena akho umkhankalazo ofanele atyholwe for ukufa kwabo bantu.
Ndithe xa bendithetha ukunikeza ubungqina ongaba uyabo uboniwe nguyena ofanele atyholwe.
I said in my evidence, whoever could be identified and linked to those killings should be blamed.
I'll come to that in a moment.
Siyeza kuloo ndawo.
I'm asking you, is it correct to say that your evidence to the Commission is that on what you know, Mr. Ramaphosa must be blamed for the deaths, Lonmin must be blamed for the deaths, but there's no blame to be laid at the door of the strikers?
Ndithi ke okwangoku ngalento yaziyo wena abantu afanele batyholwe for ukufa kwabo abantu ayingobaqhankqalazi kodwa nguLonmin no Mr. Ramaphosa.
Abaphi abantu?
People who should do what? Which people?
Yeah.
You don't think the strikers are in any, from what you know, you don't think any of the strikers, you have no knowledge and no information which suggests that any of the strikers are responsible for any of the deaths.
Wena awunalwazi na information yokuba ke ukhona abaqhankqalazi fanele batyholwe ngokufa kwabo abantu.
Ndiyakho ndiyazi uba abantu babulawe ngobani.
I said I have no knowledge as to who killed those people.
Right?
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. No, I was just saying, Chairperson, the witness has asked a question. He asked a question, which people? And I think that although Mr. Badland is not obliged to answer the question, the point of the matter is that he can't simply just refer to the people. Remember that some of the people who died were strikers themselves. So when the witness says which people, I think even though strictly speaking, Mr. Badland has no obligation to answer his question, it begs the very point that to put it as some of the people, when we are talking about 10 people who include policemen, strikers, and what have you, it's just...
Okay. Excuse me. Mr. Badland has been asking you about the 10 people that you spoke about, whose deaths you said were caused by the reluctance of Lonmin to speak to the strikers. So these 10 people...
ebebuza ngaba bantu balishumi ababulawo othi ke ukufa kwabo lityala le okanye lonto enziwe ngokuba uLonmin engafuni ukuthetha nabaqhankqalazi.
These 10 people were the following.
Abo bantu balishumi ngaba balandelayo.
There were 2 security guards who were killed on the Sunday morning,
Bengama security
Mr.
amabini
Fundi
awabulawa
and Mr.
Sunday.
Mabulani.
Ufundi noMr. Mabulani.
There were 2 workers who were killed, one on Sunday night, Mr. Mabebe, and one on Monday morning, when he was going to work, Mr. Langa.
Na basebenza babini uMr. Mabebe wabulawa ngokuhlwa ngecawa no Mr. Langa ngosuku olandelayo wayisiya emsebenzini.
On the Monday afternoon, the 13th, 5 people died.
Kwafaka abantu abahlanu emini nge-13.
2 policemen
Apolisi amabini
and 3 strikers,
nabaqhankqalazi abathathu.
all flowing from events that took place near the railway line.
Zonke ke zonto isusasayo izinto ezenzeke pha ngase railway line umzela kaloli.
And the 10th person who died was Mr. Twala,
Was 10 ke wafa nguMr. Twala.
whose dead body was found behind the koppie on the Tuesday afternoon of the 14th.
Umzimba wakhe ke wafunyanwa emva kwekopi nge-14 ngolwesibini emini.
Those are the 10 people that Mr. Badland is asking about.
Ngabo ke abantu bayi-10 uMr. Badland athetha ngabo.
Kangandimve baba.
I did not hear Mr. Badland naming them.
It's because he didn't name them that I named them. Mr. Badland, you can now carry on. I think the witness will now understand which 10 people you're referring to. He was referring to himself when he spoke earlier in his evidence.
No, Chairperson, I'm sorry. That's got nothing to do with the objection I was raising. What Mr. Badlander was saying is whether the witness is disputing, I can't remember the exact word, that some of the people, in other words, some of those 10, might have been killed by the strikers. Now, our attorney is saying he must specify which of those some.
All right.
I'm not saying what you did was not helpful.
Your point's been taken.
Yeah.
And Mr. Budlander, I'm sure, will bear it in mind when he asks his next question.
Yeah, I actually want to move on, Chair. I think it's done today.
Just point off quickly. Then.
All right. Let me just ask you this, Mr. Nzuza. Is it your evidence, under oath, that as far as that from what you know, there is no reason to blame any of the strikers for the deaths of Mr. Mabelane, Mr. Fundi, Mr. Langa, Mr. Mabebe, or Mr. Twala?
ubungqina bakho ke obo ufungile ukuba ngolwazi lwakho akho baqhankqalazo fanele batyholwe ngokufaka kwaba bantu balandelayo uMr Babelane, uMr Fundi, uMr Lang noMr Twala. Akho baqhankqalazo fanele batyholwe bona for ukufaka kwabo bantu.
ite ubanga babukhona ubungqina obutsho bangabasebenzi ababulalayo bangatyholwa.
I said, if there is evidence indicating that the certain workers or strikers killed those people, then they can be blamed for that.
Mr. Nzuza, let me just stay with those 5 people for the moment. Mr. Mabelane, Mr. Fundi, Mr. Langa, Mr. Mabebe, and Mr. Twala. Those 5 people.
Manhlale kubo kwaba abantu bathathu ne babale. Fundi, Mabelane, Ulanga, Twala, Mabebe.
Now, just you were the second in charge at the copy. Is that correct?
Wena phaya ekopini ubungu wesibini ukuphatha ba umkhulu. Second in charge. Andit?
Yeah.
Yes.
First in charge was Mr. Noki, who was killed on the 16th of August.
Owokuqala bephethe phaya benguMr Noki wabulawa nge-16 kaAgasti.
Correct?
Kunjalo?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you are the most senior survivor. Is that correct?
So ke ungoyena muntu unbe nesikhundla esiphezulu oye wasinda ba njengoba sesishilo ba uMr Noki wabulawa. Andit?
Leyo ke ithethwa andinekuyiphendula.
I cannot answer that.
Well, the first person in charge was killed. You were number 2 in charge, so you're the most senior survivor.
Kaloku oyena muntu uphezulu ngesikhundla pha ubulewe uMr Noki andit? Bekhona umuntu olandela yena ngesikhundla nguwe lowo. So xa sengekho lo pha eqaleni kuwe ngokosina onesikhundla esiphezulu. Akekho ngaphezulu kwakho xa unokengena. Andit?
Xa kunini yona.
At what stage now?
You today are the most senior survivor of the leadership of the strike.
Namhlanje njengoba setha namhlanje wena ungwena umuntu nesikhundla esiphezulu osindileyo ophilayo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I want you to think again about Mr. Mabelane, Mr. Fundi, Mr. Langa, Mr. Mabebe, and Mr. Twala, and about their family members who lost their loved ones during that week.
Ndifuna ucingeke kakuhle futhi nangongaba abantu bahlanu babaleyo uMr Mabelane, uMr Fundi, uMr Langa, uMr Mabebe, noMr Twala ngefamily zabo ezilahlekelwe ke ngabo bantu babathandayo lo madoda nobabaleyo.
Are you willing, even at this late stage, to apologize to them for the deaths of their loved ones?
Nokuba ke sekungileli xesha sekulate nje kudala yenzekile lento uzimisele nana ngoku ukuxolisa ucela uxolo kubo ngokufakwa lamadoda ntandane zabo. Can you repeat the question, please?
Thinking of those 5 people who lost their loved ones during that week, you are the most senior survivor of the strikers. Are you willing to apologize to them for the deaths of their loved ones?
Wena ke njengesona sikhulu esisindileyo esaphile emva koba sithe uMsino kasekho ucinga ngeentsapho zababantu bahlanu lamadoda uzimisele na namhlanje ke ucela uxolo kwezantsapho zababantu.
Ndilicele njani xolo? Olanto bandenze ntoni?
Apologize for what? What shall I have done in order to apologize?
Mr. Nzuza, people have come here and have made apologies for the events of that week in which they were involved.
Asile kaloku abantu apha bacela uxolo ngento ezenzeka ngalaveki bebe bandakanyeka kuzo na.
Sorry, Chairperson. Which people are those?
There's a string of people, Chairman.
I don't remember anyone.
If you don't remember it, Chair,
Well,
can I
if
be
you
allowed
do,
to
you
ask
can
my
say.
questions?
Yeah, well, No, Chairperson, with the greatest respect, you can't make statements if they can't be substantiated. If there are those people, they must be said. It's not Mr. Mbof, it's Mr. Badlander who's made that claim.
I will draw that in order to save time, because I actually would like to finish my cross-examination. Mr. Nzuza, I'm asking you a simple question, and you can answer either yes, or you can answer no, or you can give a qualified answer, but you can't ask another question in your answer to my question.
Ndikakubuza nje umbuzo olula ngephendula nje okanye hayi okanye uchazeke mhlawumbe kodwa ungaphenduli ngokubuza omnye umbuzo.
You are the most senior survivor of the strikers,
Ungoyena ke
of the leadership of the strikers.
phezulu pha kwinkokheli ze-strike pha usaphila.
I want you to think of the families of Mr. Mabelane, Mr. Fundi, Mr. Langa, Mr. Mabebe, and Mr. Twala.
Ngokwe ufuna uba ucinge ngefamily intsapho zabo bantu abo Mr. Mabelane, Mr. Fundi, Mr. Mabebe, Mr. Twala no Mr. Langa.
And I ask you again, are you willing to apologize to them for the loss of their loved ones?
Uyabuza ke futhi uba uzimisele na uxolisa ucela uxolo kweza ntsapho zaba bantu ngokulahlekelwa zintandane zabo.
Xolisa ngasiphi isizathu?
On what grounds should I apologize?
Does that mean no?
Uthetha into yoba
I'm
uzimisele.
just asking you whether you're willing to apologize, yes or no.
Bendibuza nje uba uzimisele na uxolisa okanye uzimisela.
Ange nditsho qha ndifuna ukwazi uba ndixolisa akabe kwenzeka into enzentoni.
I did not say so. Apparently did not say no. All I want to know is why, on what grounds should I apologize?
It's for you to search your conscience, Mr. Nzuza. All I'm asking you is, are you willing to apologize to them, yes or no?
Uzikhulula nje yazisazela sakho ndibuza nje uba uzimisele na uxolisa kubo.
Ndibuza uba into endifana uyazi fanele before ndixolise ndazi uba ndenze ntoni qha.
But before I apologize, I need to know what I've done wrong.
Mr. Nzuza, it's for you to search your conscience and think about whether you have anything which you ought to apologize for.
Uthi nguwe kaloku oza uzivula isifuba uzijonge into yaziyo nawe i-conscience yakho usazela sakho.
All I'm asking you is, are you willing to apologize to them, yes or no? Answer the question, please.
Qha ubuza nje into yoba uzimisele na ukucela uxolo okanye uzimisela.
Lo mbuzo ndithanda ndifuna ukwazi ndixolisa ngesiphi isizathu xa unondinika isizathu ndizotsho ndikwazi uxolisa.
In order to answer that question, I asked you on what grounds should I apologize. If you give me a reason, then I'll know if I can apologize or not.
Are you saying you are not aware of any reason why you should apologize to them?
Uthi ke wena unasizathu osaziyo esengenza uba uxolise ngalokho.
Njengantoni?
Like what?
I'm asking you, are you aware of any reason why you should apologize to the families? Yes or no?
Unaso isizathu onaso esengenza into yokuba ufanele ukuba uxolise kwifamily zabo abantu okanye asiphi? Manye magama ayikho into ongayixolisela yona.
Lo mbuzo andizuphendula.
I'm not going to answer that question.
No, I'm going to insist that you answer it. Are you aware of any reason why you should apologize to them?
Umele ba ufuna uphendule lo mbuzo. Unaso na isizathu osaziyo esingenza uba uxolise okanye asikho?
Fanele andicacisele isizathu afuna uba mandixolisele sona sesiphi endisenzileyo.
Can you please explain to me the reason why I should be apologizing?
No, he's not asking, he's not putting a reason to you. He's asking you a different question. He's saying, do you, as you sit there, know of any reason why you should apologize? If the answer is you don't know of any reason, then you can say so.
Akanasizathu afuna ukunika sona yena sokwenza uba uxolise. Ubuza wena njengoba uhleli apha unaso na isizathu osaziyo sokuba uxolise futhi ngokufa kwabantu. Wena unaso saziyo isizathu.
Esantoni?
What reason?
I told you that he's not suggesting any reason to you. He's asking you whether you yourself, as you sit there, know of any reason.
Akathi yena unaso isizathu esenza into yoba fanele uxolise akasho nje.
As I said to you, if you don't know any reason, you can say so.
Ubuza wena uba wena unayo na into yaziyo isizathu osaziyo esenza uba ufanele uxolise. Xa unaso ungasho uba khona isizathu endinaso mina esingenza uba ngixolise.
Umuntu uxolisa kwinto ayaziyo athi ndiyaxolisa uba le nto ndiyayazi.
But one apologizes for something that they know.
Don't know, then you don't have to apologize, do you?
So
that's why I asked you, do you know of any reason why you should apologize?
Xa ungenasizathu osaziyo ke akho mfuneko yokuxolisa ndithi yiyo le nto usihlalo naye ebuza uba unaso na isizathu wena osaziyo esingenza uba uxolise.
Andithi bathi mandixolise ukuba beswelekile ndazi uba basweleke njani ndizaxolisa njani.
But I'm told or asked to apologize for their deaths. I do not know how they died. Why should I? How can I apologize?
Mr. Nzuza, I'm not asking you to apologize for their deaths. I'm asking you whether you know of any reason why you should apologize.
Akacela into yoba uxolise for ukufa kwaba bantu. Ubuza nje uba unaso na isizathu wena osaziyo esenza uba wena ufana aba bantu family zaba bantu zilindele wena uba mawuxolise okanye wena uyaziyo ngokwakho bantu nento nje ndiyaziyo mina ngokufa kwabantu fanele ngixolise for loo nto.
Andinanto endiyaziyo ngokufa kwabantu qha ekusendixolisile kubo ndathi bangaba kunabantu abandakanya abulawa kweze security ngabantu basulekayo kufuneke babanjwe uba kunobungqina obukhoyo yino into endiyithethileyo leyo.
I said I have no knowledge of how they died, but I said also earlier on today that if there is anyone who can be linked to the death of the security people and all the other people who died, those people should be arrested.
Yes, well, let's move on to that. So you agree that the people who carried out the killings of the security guards, the Lonmin workers, and the police should be prosecuted, and if they are convicted, they must go to jail.
So uyavuma ke into yoba abantu ababulala ama-security abantu baselonmini namapolisa xa ngaba yafumaneka babanjwe bayitrunge. Yes.
Do you feel very strongly about that?
Uyatshiseka ungayithanda kakhulu loo nto bayenzele. Yes.
People who do things like that are criminals.
Ngoba kaloku abantu benza into ezinjalo zizikrelemnqa ngotsuzi. Sigebenga. Yes.
Yes. What have you done to assist the police to catch those criminals?
Wena wenze ntoni ke ukunceda amapolisa baba?
Chairperson, again, I would have expected you, as you always do, to make it clear that this witness, who's a lay person, cannot be expected to distinguish between people who have already been convicted and those who are being accused and those who are already criminals or suspects and all those kinds of things. So, to use these kinds of terms liberally, as you have said to us when we use terms like murder and so on, would I suggest, need your intervention, Chairperson?
The question can be reformulated as follows. Have you done anything to assist the police to identify and to, if necessary, if they are identified, to arrest the people who were responsible for those deaths?
Ikhona into enzileyo wena ukunceda amapolisa ukuba ba-identifye kukhonjwe abantu abenze obububi bangabe mhlawumbi sebeyaziwa ba-identifye uwanceda uba babanjwe abo bantu. Khona into enzileyo.
Andovumbuso.
I did not get the question.
Have you done anything to help the police to identify the people who are responsible for those deaths, and if they are identified, to arrest them?
Ikhona into yenzileyo wena ukunceda amapolisa ukuba ku-identify kukhonjwe uba ngubani mhlawumbi obandakanyekayo ekufeni kwaba bantu uba ngabe mhlawumbi se-identifyayo lo muntu lo sekazi uba ngubani uncede mhlawumbi amapolisa ukuba afunyanwe abanjwe apha khona.
Akho nto bendingayenza ngento ebendingayazi uba babulewe ngubani.
There is nothing I could have done when I did not know who killed them.
Are you willing to speak to your co-strikers and say to them that those who know about who did the killings should come forward and give evidence to the police?
Uzimisele mhlawumbi ukuthetha ke nabanye abaqhankqalazi ubonabo ukuba abantu banolwazi madoda ngokufa kwabantu aba mabeze phambili bancede amapolisa kubanjwe abantu. Uzimisele uyenza leyo.
Andovumbuso.
I did not get the question.
Sorry, it took you a long time to work out that you didn't know what the question was, but let me ask you again. Are you willing?
Chairperson, I'm sorry, once again, whenever we make comments after questions, you reprimand us. I think that rule should apply to everybody in this room. There should be no favoritism when that rule applies.
Sorry, there's no favoritism intended. Depends on the nature of the comment. I was reminded myself to put on record that there was quite an appreciable delay before that answer was given. Mr. Budlinder gave it, made it unnecessary to do it. Mr. Budlinder, please don't make comments like that in future. Rely on me to put matters of that kind on record.
Chair, it's not a gratuitous comment. It's a comment so that it's on the record, so that it's recorded what happened.
It was, I had intended to say, as I sometimes do, we're waiting for your answer, and note that you've delayed in answering, that kind of thing. But
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Budland is right.
I didn't know
Sorry, Mr. Paul is right. Strictly speaking, I should do it, not you. But anyway, let's carry on.
Mr. Nzuza, are you willing to speak to your co-strikers and urge them that if they have any information about who killed these people, they should give it to the police?
Uzimisele na ukuthetha nabanye abaqhankqalazi kunawo pha bangabe banolwazi ngokubulawa kwaba bantu bacela madoda zani phambili thethe namapolisa ncede kubanjwa abantu.
Ayingomsebenzi wami lo.
That is not my duty.
So you want them to be arrested and prosecuted, but you don't want... You want them to be arrested and prosecuted, but you don't want to do anything to ensure that they are arrested and prosecuted.
So abantu ababuleleyo ke uyafuna babanjwe bachuchiswe kodwa ufuna unceda benento yenzayo unceda ba nyani lonto yenzeka.
Kuba ingengomsebenzi wami lo.
Because it is not my duty.
You were the senior surviving person who was from the strikers committee, from the leadership of the strikers. Do you not accept that you have some responsibilities flowing from that?
Ndithemba unemthwalo umsebenzi nawo fanele ujonga nayo yenze njengesenior isikulu besishiyekileyo pha kwenkokheli zapha entabeni.
Umthwalo njenganto.
Responsibilities like
Responsibilities like leading your followers.
njengoba ukhokhela abantu bakulandelayo bakho.
Ayingowami lo msebenzi akho umuntu nilandelayo njengami.
That is not my duty. I don't have followers right now.
Do you think that the killing of those people was wrong?
Ucimba ibe wrong obe into embi le ukubulawa kwabantu.
I'm just talking now about the 5 people for the moment. The 5
Sathetha-
people whose names I've mentioned.
Ngithatha kwangabahlanu.
Do you think the killing of, from what you've heard, was the killing wrong?
Ngalento nje uyivileyo wena ucimba ibe wrong into ukubulawa kwabo. Ngoba nibe into enhle.
Umbuzo ngeke ndiwuphendule ngoba kumkubuhlungu xa uzawucalucalula abantu.
I cannot answer that question because it hurts me when you segregate against people.
You said that you said your evidence this morning was, I would be happy if the people who killed the security were arrested. That's what you said. Those were your words.
Kodwa namhlanje uthe ungavuya kakhulu xa ngabe aba bantu babulele lamadoda bangabanjwa. Nditho njalo. I-securities.
Kuba nibale wonke umuntu obe osolekayo upha entabeni.
Yes,
Xesha le strike.
Yes, and I included
Andicalucalulanga.
I included everybody who died on the mountain during the strike. I did not choose certain and leave others.
Would you be happy if the people who killed the securities were arrested?
Ngakuvuyisa ke lonto babanjwe aba bantu babulele security.
When nditshilo.
Yes, I said so.
What are you prepared to do to assist the police to do that so that you'll then be happy?
Uzimisela ukwenza ntoni ke ukunceda amapolisa uba yenzeke lonto uba nyani ke uvuye.
Ayingowami umsebenzi okusebenza namapolisa.
That is not my part to work with the police.
You don't think as a citizen you've got a duty to assist the police to arrest and prosecute people who carried out murder?
Awucimbe njengomhlali walapha kweli lizwe lethu umthwalo wakho nawe uba unceda amapolisa ababamba abantu ababuleleyo kanye abenze izenzo ezinje.
Ayingengowami lo, ayingomthwalo wami.
No, that is not my responsibility.
Now summarize your evidence as follows.
Mandibshwangathele ngale ndlela ubunqina bakho.
You say the killings, let's just stick with the security guards. Yes, the killings of the security guards were the fault of Lonmin.
Masithethe kakhulu ngama-security la. Uthi ke lityala le-Lonmin ukubulawa kwalama-security. Yes.
The killings of the security guards were also the fault of Mr. Ramaphosa.
Lityala futhi lika-Mr. Ramaphosa ukubulawa kwalama-security.
The killing of the security guards was wrong, and the people who did it should be arrested and prosecuted.
Birongo ke lonto leyo ukuba kubulawa lama-security and abantu abenze lonto fanele babanjwe batshutshiswe.
Ufanele babanjwe.
Yes, they should be arrested.
But you're not prepared to do anything to assist to make that happen?
Kodwa khonto uzimisela ukuyenza wena ukunceda into yokuba iyenzeka lonto bayabanjwa abantu.
Kuba ayingowami umsebenzi woba mandenze uphando.
Because it is not my duty to investigate.
And you've been unable, after many questions, to think of any reason why you've got something to apologize for.
And akho sizathu ongasicinga esingenza uba wena ube nemfuneko ubuxolise wena cela uxolo ngalento.
Ngandixolisela into engingayazi ba yenziwe ngubani.
I want to apologize for something I do not know who the author of is who did the wrong. can't apologize for a wrong that's done by someone I do not know.
And you also say that if Lonmin had spoken to the strikers, those security guards would not have been killed.
And uthi uba ngabe uLonmin ebethethile nabaqhankqalazi eza security ngesingabulawanga.
Ewe nditsho.
Yes, I'm saying so.
But you're not willing to accept that the strikers are in any way responsible for the deaths of those people. It's Lonmin and Mr. Ramaphosa who must be blamed.
Kodwa ke awumiselanga ukuvuma uba kungenzeka into yokuba bayatholeka abaqhankqalazi okanye abanye babo ngokufa kwaba bantu. Uthi hayi nje umuntu onetyala tyolwa ungatyolwa ngalento nguLonmin no Mr. Ramaphosa qha.
Leyo baba qhankqalazi babulela nto ndiyazi.
I said I do not know about that aspect that the protesters committed the murders.
I have no
I
further
do not know
question.
about that.
Thank you, Chair. I have no further question.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. It's now 1 o'clock. The next cross-examiner is going to be Mr. Semenya, but I take it he'd like to start after the lunch adjournment. I said we'd take lunch until 1:30. So that's how one of the ways we created extra time for Mr. Mpofu. So we'll adjourn now till 1:30.
Sabuya ke ngo half past 1 lunch.